Hello again, and on the UK edition this weekend, let's take you to court for a word with Vijay Mallya, for a word about Vijay Mallya. This is endgame now in the move to extradite him back to India. The Westminster Magistrates Court had passed an order earlier ordering extradition. Now the High Court has heard his appeal against that order. So Mr. Mallya, how is it looking?
I had enough evidence to prove my case. I have no comment to make. You hear it and I'm hearing it as well.
No Indian case has rocked London as has the Vijay Mallya extradition case. Mallya arrived in London in March 2016, and a year later the Indian government filed for his extradition. After a year of hearings through 2018, the Westminster Court ordered that extradition. This week, the High Court in London heard his appeal against that extradition order. We were there to track the case and him. Well, the endgame in the Mallya extradition case begins this week here at the London High Court, where his appeal will be heard over a period of an expected 3 days. Mallya had argued against his extradition on several grounds. He had argued that the whole case is politically motivated. He had said that he cannot expect fair trial in India. He had said that the proposed detention conditions for him in Mumbai are not good enough. The appeal has been allowed only on the central issue whether there is prima facie evidence of fraud or not, whether he acted in good faith or he acted deceptively. Mr. Mallya had very little to say on how he thinks he sees the arguments proceeding. Quick thought on the way the arguments are going, Mr. Mallya?
I have no comment to make. You hear what I hear.
But he did have some kind words to say about the channel you are watching now.
Your program is good, huh?
Oh, that's very kind. Does it seem that the magistrate got it wrong on fact on pre-tax and post-tax payments?
I'm not the judge. You are hearing Sanjay as much as I am hearing. And then you are asking me to comment. I can't comment.
I'm a nobody, you are Mr. Mallya.
I am also a nobody.
But within the courtroom, this was serious business. Claire Montgomery, appearing for Vijay Mallya, argued in court that the Westminster Court had got it wrong on several counts, that the evidence presented on the email exchanges among KFA executives should never have been admitted, but once that was, the magistrate then got it wrong in understanding it and interpreting it, that the email evidence presented was selective and that the magistrate had looked at it selectively. Arguments in defense of Mr. Mallya continued well into the second day of the hearings. Hearings are continuing into the second day now of Mallya's appeal against the extradition order passed against him by the Westminster Magistrates Court earlier. It was argued on behalf of Mallya by Claire Montgomery, speaking for him, that there was no fraud in the dispersal of loans or in the application of the loans from the banks. It was argued that the email correspondence that the Westminster Court had referred to while ordering extradition for Mallya describes a position in the company of losses, but that is not to say that the losses would continue indefinitely, and that therefore the loans were applied for in good faith and in the belief that the airline can be turned around into profit. It was then the turn of the CBI and the Indian government to present its case against Vijay Mallya and to confirm the extradition order passed by the earlier court. Hearings in Mallya's appeal against his extradition have now concluded, and not without some feisty exchanges in court between lawyers from the two sides. It was argued by the government lawyer that KFA had misrepresented its position and its losses in order to obtain the loans, and that it had hidden important information that the banks should have known while granting the loan. It was also argued that the money obtained was not used in the ways agreed and approved. But at the end of the third day of hearings, Mr. Mallya emerged from court smiling and appearing confident and in quite a mood for a chit-chat with journalists outside.
You look confident.
Three very tense days of a very dense case, sir.
For your sake, I'm not smoking a cigarette.
Please, give
Mallya,
us it's the
today-
last 3 days. What would
Dr.
you
Mallya,
say now?
Today was the third and last day of this very important appeal.
Very dense case.
Very
Very tense
dense
moment
case
of
that we
dense
have
case.
You are smiling, Mr. Mallya.
You seem relaxed in every situation, in every court case. I mean,
and you keep asking me what I think. You are there, you're intelligent people. You've been sitting in the court along with me. You heard all the proceedings. So you can make up your own mind.
now what is your mind saying, sir?
Now it's kind of chilly, you know.
And how are you feeling inside though? Chilly,
I
warm,
always-
winter?
I always feel
Do you
good.
think?
I always feel good.
Any indication when is the judgment expected,
What is
sir?
your gut feeling saying, Mr. Mallya? You must have some intuition. Or have you left it on fate, you know? Are you
I-
prepared for just anything?
After all the arguments in Westminster Court, my gut said that I will win, but I didn't. So, gut se kya matlab hai?
Did you enjoy the
Ultimately-
Mr. Mallya, do you ever
The
think
co- what-
now
did you
it's
enjoy
time
the
to just
courtroom
go back
drama,
and
Ms.
face
Mallya?
the tune in India itself? And just put your case where it actually matters.
I should be where I felt. I should be where my interests are. Yes, I have an interest in India. If the CBI and the ED are going to be reasonable, it's a different story. What all they're doing to me the last 4 years I have seen is totally unreasonable. I have nothing more to say.
Finally, this is really about the money and a lot of it that appears to be locked up. What can be done with the money on this? Mallya had something to say.
I request the banks with folded hands, take 100% of your principal back immediately.
But the banks, Mr. Mallya, have said that the resources are locked up. The assets are locked up, so how would you repay?
Please. Look, Sanjay, just let's calm down. The Enforcement Directorate attached the assets on a complaint by the banks that I was not paying them. That is clearly stated in the provisional attachment orders. I have not committed any offences under the PMLA that the Enforcement Directorate would suo moto attach my assets. It is the very same banks who complained to the ED to attach my assets because I was not paying the banks. Now I am saying, please banks take your money. And the ED is saying, no, but we have a claim on these assets. So the Enforcement Directorate on one side and the banks on the other side are fighting over the same asset. I haven't borrowed any money from the Enforcement Directorate. In fact, I didn't borrow money myself from the banks. Kingfisher Airlines did. I'm willing to honor my guarantee and pay them in full. I do not want any discount of principal and the hangover of loss of public money. Under NCLT, under the Indian Bankruptcy Code, so many companies are now changing hands with significant haircuts being taken by banks. I don't want any haircut. I want them to take their money in full. So that's it.
Is this going to help you in the bankruptcy
What
petition?
message do you have for the people of India?
Anything
People
about
have
the
been
bankruptcy
following your
petition,
case.
sir?
What do you have to tell them?
Let's see what happens with that offer and let's see what happens with the order of the High Court, and we'll know fairly soon whether Mallya stays or goes. Though if he stays, he won't be confined to England as he currently is. It's unlikely, of course, that he'll want to go to India. But where do we plain folk go? We can go where we want, and we can go where we want in London now on an Indian ride. the Indian company Ola has come to London to challenge Uber, in fact, possibly to replace it. Let's take a ride. So Ola has driven right here into London, and Simon Smith, who heads Ola International, is going to tell us where it's going from here. So, in London on Ola today, 25,000 I understand?
That's correct. We've got 25,000 drivers signed up for our platform, which went live this morning. And we're excited to say that we've had the number of customer downloads we've had is actually in the six figures already.
And has there been enough awareness creation that there's an Ola car to be had?
Absolutely. We've been advertising very heavily for the last couple of weeks. And I think a six-figure customer base is a very, very good start.
And what's the response so far? You find a lot of people getting onto your app and getting these cars?
We're finding a lot of excitement. The morning rush this morning, we had excellent demand. We're seeing that people are having a great experience. We're hearing fantastic feedback from the drivers and anecdotally so far from the customers as well.
Uber, of course, has been all over the place in London and seems to be on its way out. What are you going to do better than Uber?
Well, firstly, we have the best drivers. So we've got partnerships with 3 large British companies to ensure that our drivers are great drivers, have excellent spoken English skills, and also a fantastic customer service mindset. And in addition, we're bringing some technologies from India, which are a first in this market. Things like the one-time password for when you get in a car, the Guardian feature, which uses artificial intelligence to make sure that you're on the right trip. And we're also introducing 24/7 telephone support for both drivers and customers.
I suppose what a customer wants is reliability, speed, and service, and security, of course. On all these, you're confident you're going to give consumers and passengers what they want and what they need?
Yes, we spend a lot of time talking to customers in London, which is one of the largest and definitely the most sophisticated market in the world. And Londoners have told us they're looking for reliability, safety and quality. And we've created a service to deliver that.
You've been operating in several cities in the UK. What's your experience been like? Successful, comfortable, profitable?
Yes, so we launched in the UK 18 months ago. We're now in 27 jurisdictions, in fact 28 today in London. Birmingham, where we launched late last year, is actually, until today, our fastest growing city of all of our over 200 cities around the world. So in fact, Birmingham grew at 60% over the last 3 months. So that's a fantastic rate of growth, and we're very excited to see London.
And what's the finance model? Drivers bring their own cars?
Generally, drivers bring their own cars. We are launching a program here in London where we will help drivers lease cars as well and bring a number of other benefits to them.
Right, and vetting drivers, surely that is a priority given there's been some unease over this in the past all over the place. Is that something that you're stressing very, very strongly?
Yes, so we're vetting drivers as they come on the platform. They have to have certain standard in terms of their driver's license. We are vetting them for fluent English skills, we're vetting them for driving skills and also customer service mindset, and we're also working with the authorities here to bring in selfie authentication to make sure that the right drivers are driving it all the time.
Great, this sounds great and great going, Smith, and I don't wish to be rude, but I need to get my Ola now on my way home. See you later.
Thank you.
Quick break now, and then let's see what else is going on between Britain and India. Welcome back, just in time for a word with some people who are going to India. More and more doctors from Britain are headed to India now, if not to stay, to take best practices with them. And surely there is no visitor India needs more. Dr. Vinod Menon from Britain is pioneering a remarkable effort in Kerala in India, which is to treat professionals there in handling trauma. And those are sensitive moments when you require precise treatment, speedy treatment. You have to get it right. There is no second chance. Therefore, best practices can be a matter of life and death. Dr. Menon, what exactly are you doing there?
Thank you very much for asking me that question. Trauma care is a long felt need. It's an absolute necessity. Even in my home state of Kerala, there are 4,000 road traffic accidents a year, involves about 40,000 people, and there are 4,500 deaths. And this number has not shifted in the last 10 years. It's a similar story elsewhere across the country. We do have fantastic hospitals that give high quality care, but the problem is in the immediate hour after an accident or a fall or a stabbing or shooting, where the success, the patient lives or doesn't survive, and the level of disability is limited by or is controlled by the care he or she gets in that golden hour. So what we are setting up in Trivandrum is an Apex Trauma Simulation Training Center, which is an ambitious project which will train up to 9,000 doctors, nurses, paramedics and ambulance drivers in the essential principles of trauma and emergency care. This is funded by a generous grant by the Tata Trust of £1.4 million. It's a tripartite agreement between the Tata Trust, the Government of Kerala, which has provided a brand new building, and the Care Institute of Health Sciences in Hyderabad, who provide the logistics. So,
yeah. Do you think that the present provisions really fall short of that need to give quality care in that first 1 hour or so after the trauma incident? What is that due to? Is it finance shortages? Is it infrastructural problems? Lack of ambulances? What is it?
I think it's a combination of everything. I don't think finance really plays into it. The main thing is the immediate hour. The care is provided by the people on the spot who will be there, who will provide care till the ambulance arrives. And most importantly, it's how you transport a patient. Say you provide stability to the back, you give the airway, breathing, circulation. So this involves not just doctors and nurses, but paramedics, ambulance drivers, and general public. And I'm so grateful for the support the consulate in Birmingham, Dr. Puri, the Consul General, has provided.
Now, when you have a simulation center,
Yes.
what all will it simulate?
It will simulate, there are 3 different types of courses. There's a 1-day, 2-day and the 3-day, which is the basic skills, the advanced skills, the refresher skills, and training the trainers where you generate your own faculty. Everything relating to the airway, the breathing, the circulation, and to limit disability, which is the injury to the spine and the back.
Do you find that the ambulance staff in India is really not trained? They just take a van, turn it into an ambulance, put a cross on it, and away you go.
I think the ambulance is a great tool, but I think even in this country, the UK, this kind of ambulance system and the major trauma system has only been around since 2010. So we are not several years behind. We are limited by the traffic, the congestion. But now Kerala has come up with a novel scheme of setting up 315 ambulances across the length and breadth of the state. It's called Kaniva 108, which means Help 108, which is at a distance of every 30 miles, there is a manned ambulance with an emergency medical technician. So this, everything really fits into the concept of the level 1, level 2, level 3 trauma center and a landmark simulation center which will provide standardized training.
Right, so that's Dr. Menon working on providing care when people need it most. We would wish no one should need such care, but that of course is not going to be possible. So given the fact that there is a dire need and you never know who needs this when, this is care when it's needed most. Dr. Shashi Balyan has worked for many years in Britain in the NHS and has now moved to India and has taken some of the best practices of the NHS to India, where he's working in Kerala and in other places to train nurses, bring them up to standard so that they can work in India to NHS standards, and also have a lot of them come to Britain to work here for at least certain stretches of time. This is a remarkable move, Dr. Balyan, where you are taking the best practices from here without necessarily always getting into a migration issue. What has your experience been?
Our experience so far has been extremely good. In recent last 6 months, we have been able to place more than around 100 nurses, mainly for 2 hospitals, one in Kent region and one in the Midlands region, where...
This is nurses from India placed here?
Yes, yeah. So we have placed these 100 nurses across these 2 hospitals. What we have done is that we have changed the model completely, where we have moved 2 of the trainers from UK to India who have relocated permanently to India and are training those nurses, the Indian nurses, into NHS best practices and NHS.
And how many?
So right now we are training around 100, but we have a huge pipeline of more than 600 with a target of placing more than 1,000 nurses in next financial year.
And do you find that as things stand, there's a real big gap and a worrying gap in standards between nurses trained in India and those that you train?
I don't think that there is a difference in the overall clinical standards. The difference is that how do you approach the patient. So that is something which is very, very different, the way the things are done over here in NHS. Overall, clinically, I find them that they are, as sound as it would be any NHS nurse over here. But how to actually approach the patient, some of the ethical issues which they're not aware of. They're not aware of how the NHS actually works, what is the NHS system. So those are things which we're trying to teach them, while they are there in India by the NHS trainers.
So this is communication with parents, not parents, with patients, sorry. And this communication, you think, is really, really very significant and a very significant part of the treatment itself?
Yes, it is extremely, lot of time in medicine, it is, I would say, majority of it is all communication. If you're not able to communicate right to the patients, you're not able to satisfy the patient. So that is something extremely important.
Dr. Mallya, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.
We might add, unnecessarily of course, that these doctors are being invited to India, not extradited. See you next weekend.